What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Busy Dad's Board Gaming. My name is Neil Odette, and today I'm going to be taking you through a brief overview of Earthrising, published by Stop, Drop, and Roll Games, who helped sponsor this video. So, let's dive right into it. Earthrising is a cooperative economic game for 1 to 6 players in which you will be taking on the role of saving the planet over a period of 20 years. No big deal, right? Right? But seriously, in Earthrising, you'll play as one of 6 playable characters such as the Innovator, Eco-Investor, Climatologist, and more. Not only do each of these characters have their own specific abilities, but they are also associated with a particular sector in the game, giving them a slight advantage when working within that sector. Speaking of which, the game is made up of 6 different sectors, one for each playable character. These sectors are based off of real-world practices such as industry, agriculture, infrastructure, culture, politics, and energy. Throughout the game, you'll be taking actions. In fact, you'll be taking 4 actions per turn. On your turn, you can perform any one of the following actions in any order, and each action can be taken multiple times. First, you can clean up strain placed on burdens. Strain is represented by these tokens here and are added at the end of each player's turns based on the number of meeples in poverty, as well as the number of sustainable and unsustainable practices in a given sector. When you use the cleanup action, you can take 4 strain off of any combination of minor and major burdens. With one of your actions, you can also disband unsustainable practices or create new sustainable practices in a sector. In either case, to do so, you have to discard 2 cards matching the sector's color. But if the sector you want to create or disband a practice from matches your sector's color, then it'll only cost you 1 card. However, both sustainable and sustainable practices support a certain percentage of the population, which are represented by these meeples. Each practice supports 2 meeple. As you can see here, although we do have 2 unsustainable practices, those 2 practices still support 2 meeples each, for a total of 4 in this sector. So, disbanding an unsustainable practice may not always be the best choice right off the bat, as disbanding one will put 2 more meeple into poverty, possibly increasing the overall strain on the Earth. It'll be up to you to, over time, balance sustainable and unsustainable practices to ensure that you can keep people out of poverty while simultaneously working your way towards a more sustainable future. As an action, you can give one of your cards to another player to possibly set them up for their upcoming turn. You can use your character's special ability. And finally, you can refresh the Influence deck. The Influence deck is where you'll be drawing cards from throughout the game. But watch out, because there are also status quo cards positioned at certain spots throughout the deck. So it may be wise for you to refresh the Influence deck if you feel as though a status quo card may be coming. Now, you might be wondering, how do you win? Well, in order to win, you need to flip all of the burden segments into the center of the board, ensuring the population needs are met, poverty is reduced, and human activity is no longer overburdening the planet. We talked earlier about the cleanup action, which allows you to remove 4 strain from burdens around the board. Well, when you clear a major burden of all of its strain, you can use a free action, if it's in a sector matching your color, to flip it into the center of the board, creating more spaces for sustainable practices and meeple. If it's not your sector, you need to use an action and pay a card matching that sector's color in order to flip it. Flipping minor burdens is a little bit more difficult. First and foremost, the major burden from that sector needs to have been flipped. And secondly, the major burdens of the sectors adjacent to the minor burden you want to flip must also be flipped into the center of the board. But be careful, because you could end up in a recession, which would have you flipping minor or major burdens back out, undoing all the work you previously did. You didn't think saving the planet would be that easy, did you? There's a very fine line that you need to walk in order to both be sustainable and reduce the population in poverty. After performing your 4 actions, you'll move on to the strain phase. In phase 1, every 3 meeple in poverty produces 1 strain. Starting with the current player sector and moving clockwise around the board, you'll place strain into sectors until all strain has been placed. In strain phase 2, again, starting with the current player sector and moving clockwise around the board, count up all the sustainable and unsustainable practices in a given sector. Sustainable practices take away 1 strain, while unsustainable practices add 1 strain. So as you create more and more sustainable practices, you'll actually start healing the planet and taking strain off of it instead of putting it on. Last thing I will talk about is an ecological collapse. If at any time adding strain would cause you to have 15 or more on a major and minor burden of the same type, you'll have an ecological collapse. Ecological collapses cause you to add a rising temperature token to the center of the board and counts toward your population in poverty. As well, you'll also add an ecological collapse token to sectors around the board that will take up space in those sectors, making it more difficult to balance them out and make them sustainable. If by the end of the 20th year you have flipped all the burden segments into the center of the board, you win. If not, well then, better luck next time. And there you have it. That was my brief overview of Earth Rising. If you'd like to see my review, I'll leave links in the description below. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified on any future videos. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Links for everything in the description below. But until next time, thanks for watching and happy gaming.